What's up, War Report family? It's your boy C Dub. With the offseason here, there's plenty of talk about the transfer portal as well as recruiting information. Mike G, Ike Jones will weigh in to give their thoughts on what Auburn's roster will look like in the future for not only football, but basketball as well. And we definitely want to hear from you guys on the latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate.
You are now listening to a War Report Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by
Athletic Architect.
It's your boy, Ike Jones. Be Will, C-Dog, Mike G. Get ready, sit on back as we bring you the War Report Weekend Tailgate.
Happy Sunday, everyone. We want to welcome you to the latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate, guys, courtesy of Athletic Architects. We definitely want to thank you guys for joining in and hanging out with us. Do us a favor, ladies and gentlemen, share this content on social media. Use the hashtag, even at us, whether it's Facebook or Twitter. Help people find our content, join in on a discussion. Who knows? Maybe you'll help us grow our community. Also, help us with the YouTube algorithm. Smash that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Now, guys, got some great content for you guys that's for members only. So I can tell you how you can become a member.
Yep, click that join button, man. This week I am getting it jumped off with some of this content I've been teasing, so you guys need to make sure that you are on board so you can get all of that action. $5.99 gets you to that status. $3.99 but should be a supporter. If I live stream it, then you'll be able to jump in there with the supporter level, but $5.99 the patron level is the only place you can rewatch if you missed the live stream. So just make sure that you are on board with that. So much stuff coming up this summer, and it starts this week with some film breakdown from A-Day. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership, you can do that right now from the live chat. So go ahead and let somebody else get the gift of the War Report on you. You get the first month free on somebody else, but then after that, you got to pay your own bill. But we definitely appreciate those members who continue to support us by helping us grow our membership base, getting somebody else a membership. Every live stream we give away stuff, and in honor of the portal, He Gone t-shirt to somebody. Hashtag get your weight up. Sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Hashtag get your weight up. Somebody's getting a He Gone shirt today. Make sure that you get your spelling correct in there, and we will do that drawing right around the 1 hour mark. Yeah.
Gentlemen, how are we this lovely Sunday?
Hey, no complaints here, man.
Yeah, listen, ready to talk some portal. It's that time. It opened on Saturday, right? Saturday was
open on Saturday. Yeah, it was plenty to discuss there, guys. So before we get into that, let's it's portal season, but it's also flip season. Auburn actually flips Martavius Collins, the tight end, the 3-star tight end from Bama. Let's take a closer look at some of his information here. He is, of course, a Bama decommit. 3-star tight end from Rome, Georgia, 6'3", 226 pounds. From the 2024 class, he's the 65th recruit in the state and 23rd at his position nationally. What I found so ridiculous, this is kind of like the classic. He's a 4-star when he's committed to Bama. Then once he decommits, he drops a star. So it's that's hilarious. He's now a 3-star. We'll see how he plays this year. He could get that 4-star back. But some information about him. He visited Auburn last year, back in September, the 10th exactly, when Auburn played San Jose State. Pretty much that was it as far as the communication. Auburn re-offered him once Hugh Freeze and his staff got on board. He visited mid-January. I'm thinking he visited around Junior Day, if I'm not mistaken. But he visited. Hugh Freeze, Ben Ayumawa, and the new facility made a huge impression on this kid. And weeks later, he decommitted from Alabama, and it was rumored that Auburn was the leader. After A-Day, this kid actually named Auburn his leader. And of course, last week, he went ahead and made it official and became the 5th member of, or the 5th commitment of the 2024 class, joining Walker White, Jamarian Burnett, Jaden Lewis, and Amon Lane. Gentlemen, I want your thoughts on this. How you feel about this recent flip, tight end position? I'll start with you, Mike G.
Wait, time out. Do we know when he lost the star? When did he lose the star? Was it right after?
I mean, I think
were they in season when he lost it?
No, it was post.
No.
So I think they do reclassifications for everybody in their stars after every season. So this was after this past season. I mean, so what I understand happened is this past season he didn't put up as big a stat line, and so they dropped a star on him. But
okay.
I also understand that they asked him to change his role to be more of a blocker than a pass catcher. So it wasn't because he was playing worse. It's just he didn't have as many receptions. So they're like, oh, okay. And so his status dropped.
Okay.
It's not like he's any worse a player. He's just a better blocker now, which is wonderful.
Got it. Okay. I was
Which
just making
again,
sure.
I don't understand why you drop him a star. But go
Yeah. Right. Like I was just making sure because sometimes it just feels like after he decommits from Alabama, you know, the scouts come out and they're like, I don't know. He said Wawa was better than Bucky, so we got to drop him a star, right? Like any excuse to drop these kids a star after they commit to Auburn, it's completely ridiculous. Anyway, the tight end room is getting kind of crowded. It feels like
You're losing a lot of bodies though after this year, though.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, they have Deal. They've got Fairweather, who I feel like are the front runners there for playing time this year. You've got Fromm, you've got Michael Riley Ducker, you got Frazier still in there, and now you're adding this kid. You know, so it's a little bit. Michael Riley Ducker is still a redshirt freshman. You know, Frazier still got some eligibility left. I have questions. There seems to be a tight end flavor to the recruiting lately on the offensive side of the ball. So it makes me wonder about what the strategy is coming together like on offense in terms of what they're going to run. We know he had one particularly famous tight end that he coached in Evan Ingram. That had a pretty good career at Ole Miss and went on to the NFL to have a good career. So, you know, this kid is a 4-star talent. I don't care if they dropped him a star or not. And, you know, these tight ends definitely see something in Hugh Freeze's pitch on offense that they like. Because they're committing, it feels like, in droves. I expect this to continue. I expect them to be in the mix for high-profile tight ends. I'm interested to see what this is going to mean for what they're going to put on tape this year offensively. But tight ends seem to like what they're throwing out there. I think that bodes well for them on offense in terms of recruiting because you got to throw the ball to your tight ends. And the passing game has been something that we've questioned what they're going to do. How are they going to achieve success in the passing game this year? It feels like to me, tight ends are a big part of whatever future plan they have. So, you know, this is a good get for them. Yeah, they're working really hard in recruiting right now, and it seems like it's paying off. So it's a big deal to have a kid that was committed to Bama and Saban, and then to have him decommit, not only have him decommit, but commit to Auburn across the state. So there's something there. I think this is another signal that they're headed the right direction in recruiting.
All right. Talk to me, man. Thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a good get to solidify a room that you know you're going to be utilizing in the future. And if all of those reasons that I outlined earlier are the reasons that his star dropped and that he's being used as a blocker more than a pass catcher, then that means that we're going to have a solid guy who can catch passes, who's also a good blocker coming in the next offseason, which is a great thing. And he, for all those people who, I guess it's possible, listen, I don't know the back end rumors of what's going on in Bama, that Bama was moving in a different direction. It was a mutual parting of ways between them and Collins, and we didn't actually flip him. But it seems awfully suspicious that he didn't decommit until after he visited us.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, I mean, if it was a mutual parting of ways, it was because he was like, hey, I think I want to open this back up and take a second look at some place. And they were like, well, if you're going to do that, then we just going. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, let's go somewhere else then. So I don't know, but I like it. I like it's so what I like about how this staff is approaching things is they fundamentally understand what they're going to need to be successful, and they're approaching it in that way. The commitment to the offensive line early, going in and saying we need to make sure that our tight end room looks like the type of tight end room that we want from size, stature standpoint. Going after particular types of wide receivers, not just accepting whoever they're going to bring in, particular types and builds on their linebackers, right? Like we have a type, we have a standard that we want to set from our athleticism standpoint, and then we'll coach you how to get to the places you need to be a better football player. I like it.
Auburn said, blonde, 5'10". We got it tight, right? Yeah. We got it tight. So I like what they're doing. You got to know what you want out here in this game if you're gonna get what you want. So like I think it's great that they're defining, exactly what it is that they're looking for, so kids know whether or not they fit that or not, and you can get kids that will make more solid commitments. I think if you're clear on what it is you're looking for, rather than just chasing stars. Right. Get kids that fit what you're trying to do.
And even in that, Mike, I think it's impressive that the kid that they are looking at just so happens to be committed at this school. Don't care. We're still going to make contact with you. We're still going to talk to you on a daily. We're still going to build those relationships and then see how things play out at the end. And for this kid,
did y'all see that? Did y'all see that about the linebacker that's currently committed to Bama? There's a clip from this Bama podcast that's floating around where the kid is talking to the panel, and they're basically saying that Coach Hugh Freeze calls the kid and or his mom every day to check in on him, and he's currently committed to Bama. And they're like, so but you're good, right? You're not flipping in the clip. And the dude's like trying to, because they're mostly former Bama players in it, and they're trying to disparage Bama commits from like flipping away. But it's interesting. I mean, but to your point, in their mind, we didn't recruit you, right? Like Auburn may have recruited you, but not this staff. So I know you committed elsewhere before now, but we need you to know, hey, it's a different situation. Just come check us out. You might change your mind.
And that what Hugh Freeze is telling them, come see. And they're showing up. And they're getting a different perspective of Auburn, which I love to see. Ben Bloodworth also says, of course, Bama is saying they didn't really want him now. So here's the thing about that. I will accept that premise, but why are we acting like Martavius Collins is the only one Auburn staff is talking to?
Right.
If Perry Thompson flips, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear anything about you saying you didn't want Perry Thompson. Yeah. That I think is their wide receiver, the kid from Foley, I believe.
Yeah.
There's a few other guys. The linebacker that you talked about, Automobile, I can't think of his name. Chat, y'all can help me out in the comments. But you flip some of those guys, that's going to fall on deaf ears, because the ones that hurt was some of those 4 and 5 stars, highly regarded, highly ranked recruits that we would lose for. If Hugh Freeze gets his share of victories in this upcoming recruiting cycle in the future, I don't want to hear this no more. This is dead. This is a new sheriff in town. His name is Hugh, and he's getting his fair share of guys. So you can get this off with a 3-star, but I don't want to hear that when it comes to a 4 and 5 star, because Bama don't give those people up. They don't give them up.
Right. Like nobody saw Ken Lee coming last cycle. They didn't. Like, let's be clear. And he looks like he's going to be a baller. So a DB from Ohio State who has put DBs in the league.
Sterling Dixon. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. It's not like Ohio State hadn't put defensive backs in the league, so they don't have a pedigree of doing it. They still flipped him. So like all of this talk about, well, hey, we just didn't, we backed off. No, they didn't. They didn't. Calm down. Stop it.
They didn't, but I'll let you have this one. You ain't gonna be able to get that off.
I get it. I understand big bad Bama. They have the mystique, and nobody's flipping people from Bama. Yeah. Like you said, new sheriff, bro.
Yeah, but people are, though, man. $90 million performance facility. Right. You know, I mean, it's going to be one of those things where ultimately it comes down to what they're going to do on the field. But the effort in recruiting just wasn't there.
Yeah.
Right. The emphasis like this. And they have a renewed focus on just making sure kids understand why to choose Auburn. And the attitude around NIL has changed big time. So they're selling that. You know, I still got questions about how that's being done, but they've just got a whole new attitude around it. I just think there's so many things now that level the playing field that if you're Bama, you no longer can win just based on come to me, I'll get you to the league. We're the best of the best. I think NIL has evened the playing field. This is why Nick Saban would prefer it not to be a thing. He didn't need it to win before.
Right.
He didn't need it to win. But now that he's got to contend with this, it's more politicking with boosters and other things to make sure that that money is there so that they don't start losing Bryce Young type recruits to other schools because of money.
Yeah, between NIL and the transfer portal, it's a whole different ballgame of like what you have to do to maintain your 5-star depth, right? Because 5 stars don't have to sit there and wait their turn anymore. They just don't. And they can go other places. And because it's legal now to get paid, they don't have to wait, and they can get paid somewhere else too. So I can play somewhere else and get paid somewhere else.
All right, look what's happening out in Texas right now. Sark came out after their spring game and said, I think it's clear that Quinn Ewers is our quarterback.
Yeah.
Now, Arch Manning is sitting there and he's hearing that and thinking he's got one or two things he can be thinking. Yeah, he's right. I need to sit and develop. Or, no, man, I'm better than him and I want to play now.
He'd be crazy to think the second one, but.
Yeah, right. Peace. No. But if he did, he's going to have options no matter where he transfers.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Some major Division I program will start this kid from day one if he comes in fall camp. So
that ain't who keeping an eye on though from Texas though.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's a lot of folks in those Texas circles. All my Texas friends say Sark ain't making no decisions out there. Like the boosters are telling him what to do, flat out. Like, if you thought Auburn had meddling boosters, let me tell you something about Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, including the meddling.
That was a good one, Mike. That was a good one.
Right. Yeah. They meddling big out there.
I like that one. That was a good one.
Yeah. They meddling like it's the Olympics, bro. Like lots of meddling. So I would. Okay. All right. Yeah.
That was a bar. I'm not going to lie. That's a bar. Okay. A lot of meddling like the Olympics. I guess a bar. That's a bar.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I hear meddling like SUNY Lee. So I just think that if these kids, if you got kids like Arch Manning, if you got kids who are talented to Ike's point, where 5 stars are just like, I don't have to sit. I don't have to sit.
Right.
And although they made the flashy choice, which was Texas at the time, reality sets in, and maybe your Arch is like, you know what? F it, Ole Miss. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna take the job from everybody immediately. It will be popular. He'll be the most popular guy on campus from day one.
Yeah.
So, so did you guys see the clip, another social media clip that's floating around of Cam Newton talking to a bunch of recruits about like where people are like
people lost their minds over
I just don't understand. Like, first and foremost, I get it. Cam Newton says things and people they lose their shit about like I just don't understand it because it didn't say anything that was particularly controversial, but it became this controversial thing of like,
because it's Cam.
How can you say that you went to Florida and Auburn? It's like you missed the entire point. Everybody's not Cam Newton,
right?
And it would have been arrogant if he'd have been like, all of y'all ain't me, so you don't need to be trying to go to these Power 5.
Wait, real quick, I articulate his point pretty quickly for everybody.
Yeah, so basically he was talking to a bunch of young kids and he was saying, don't go to these big programs thinking they need you. They don't need you. They're going to tell you that in the recruiting process, but they absolutely do not need you. Go where you can go play, because if you're that guy, scouts will find you. It doesn't matter. So stop trying to take the flashy school and go somewhere where you can get tape.
Okay, so
because tape is what matters.
Right. And so again, Josh Pate put out a whole clip.
I haven't watched it yet.
He put out
somewhat what he said.
Yeah, he put out a whole clip essentially saying that's wrong. Go where you can get developed, essentially, but it matters what program you go to. And I'm just like, I don't know, Josh, that sounds pretty disingenuous. I mean, again,
but you can get developed at a lot of places that aren't these Power 5 schools. There's a lot of great coaches around the country.
Wait a minute, why do you think kids come out of JUCO ready?
Well, right. Well, he was bemoaning. He was essentially saying that the old adage that if you can play, the NFL would find you is somewhat false. And I'm just like, well, it just doesn't matter if you go to a program and you sit, which is Ike's point.
Right.
If you don't have no tape, that's worse.
The NFL is not going to find you on some college bench.
On Bama's
they're not going to do that.
Yeah,
they're going to find you if you have tape. That. So here's the thing: go play JUCO, whatever, and then transfer up if you want to. If you feel like tape. You haven't done enough, but like
tape.
You have to put tape on the. Nobody's checking for you on somebody's bench because you were that guy in high school.
It just felt like his message was really aimed at the small minority of kids who can choose wherever they want to go.
Right.
But I don't see, why are you making that point to those kids? They can go wherever they want.
Right. Again, everybody's not. And so people saying Cam's not the guy to deliver that message because he got on scholarship at Florida and then at Auburn.
Exactly the guy to deliver that message.
He understands.
Absolutely.
Because here's the thing. When Cam Newton walked onto campus at Auburn, he had a starting job. He took somebody else's job who sat there on the bench behind him, who probably should have transferred somewhere and got some tape, as opposed to sitting behind Cam Newton.
Yeah, somebody stayed at Auburn that should have transferred.
Yeah,
and let's be clear too. That advice is not applicable equally to every position at football either.
For sure, because there's only one quarterback.
Right.
There's only one starting kicker 9 times out of 10.
Yeah,
there's very few starting defensive backs.
I almost went after Josh for that tape. I almost went after him. I heard it, like I was taking a shower and I was kind of messing around my Twitter, and after I got a shower and it was playing, and I was just like, wait, what is he talking about? And it was in response to the Cam Newton thing. Now, I didn't have realized it at the time.
Yeah,
but it hit me, and I was like, oh, he's talking about what Cam was saying to these recruits.
Yeah.
Right. Listen, man, they found T.O. at Tennessee State. You know where I don't think they would have found T.O.? On Bama's third string.
Right.
If they decided that they recruited guys in front of him and he wasn't going to play. And talent evaluation is so subjective, and there are plenty of talented kids that will never see the field only because some guy who was more heralded coming in that they invested more in, especially with NIL now. They won't say it out loud. Right. But that they're going to play first. Meanwhile, this is why the transfer rule, the portal rule, is so important to kids.
Right.
You lied. And you're favoring some kid for reasons unbeknownst to me. He's not even better than me. Bye.
Right.
I'm going where I can play.
Here's where I will take the side, I guess, of Josh Pate in this conversation. If you're really that guy, you can win the starting job somewhere. But again, to your point, Mike, it's not an exact science like that. It's not just I'm better. Sometimes it's not a right fit. Sometimes it's not the right timing. So I'm not saying don't take the scholarly from the big school. I'm saying when you get there and things ain't shaking out the way that you want to, leave.
Don't sit on the bench
and
for
go
3 years.
somewhere where you can put tape on. And that's going for, if there are Auburn guys that are watching me say this right there, I'm not mad at nobody hitting the transfer portal because they don't see a path to the field. You can't make your dreams come true from the bench. You can't.
Right. That's facts. That's facts. Yeah, you can't. That's a bar right there. Dreams don't come true from the bench.
It's just not gonna happen, man. Right. There is no alternate universe where NFL scouts are watching your practice footage to determine if they're going to draft you.
I mean, obviously, some of your stars at some of these bigger schools are going to get the spotlight. That's who they've been highlighting for the NFL draft. But isn't there like someone did a study on how many people came from non-big school, like
the mid majors? The NFL is full of mid majors.
That's what I'm saying.
What they did was Caesar is that they took. The point was of one of these studies was the NFL is full of 3-star talent. Right. It is predominantly 3-star talent because again, the talent evaluation, when you get to the next level where they resource that a lot better, those scouts that are truly experts at looking and projecting whether a kid would be good or not, it's hard to do. Now, there are a lot of wannabe analysts who try to do it, and it's hard. If we pulled up most of their takes, most of them would be wrong. Did anybody see the clip of Merrill Hodge and Skip Bayless?
Yes.
Oh,
talking
man.
About how was it Johnny Manziel?
Johnny Manziel.
Oh my God.
Merrill, and for everybody who hasn't seen it, Merrill Hodge pretty much just said, listen, the team who takes Johnny Manziel with the #1 pick, everybody is going to be fired in 2 years. That staff ain't going to be around. It's going to be a mistake. Like, I think he is just more of a project than you should have if you're taking him with the #1 pick. Skip Bayless's counterpoint was, you've never been more wrong about anything in your life.
Yeah.
Now, listen, I said that to somebody once on this show, and I was wrong. So I'm very careful about making those kind of definitive statements now. But he said, you're wrong. He's going to be a star. I talked to his QB coach.
Right.
It was Cliff Kingsbury at the time.
Right.
And Cliff said he's going to be a star. Well, of course, the guy who trained him is going to say that. What's he going to say? He won Heisman.
Right.
And he trained him. Of course he's going to say that. I mean, it was just, it was unreal. So like, the talent part, what we're looking at here, like what you can do and what somebody else sees that you can do. We have guys on our roster right now, on Auburn's roster, that are going through that right now. Yeah. Hugh Freeze is going to see one thing. For everybody who's not the starter, they're seeing something different. They're saying, I'm ready. I'm the guy. If you don't think you're the guy, then you're not the guy, definitely. I want my #2 to think that he's better than the #1.
Right.
Right.
And if I don't, that #1 better be Bryce Young. He better be Joe Burrow.
Right.
He better be Tom Brady. But if you ain't that, I'm better than you. That's how guys should feel. Coy Moore came on our show and made that point. Listen, I think Butte is nice, but is he so nice that I should think that I'm second to him? No. I'm better than him. That's how he should feel. So
yeah, I'm definitely not mad at anybody. Now, what I'm upset about, and upset is probably not the best word to use there, but what to me is frustrating is when a guy is really not that nice, but he has that high an opinion of himself, and it's like, okay, I hear you, young man, but you might want to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't tested it in a game, right, then you should feel that way until you've gotten on the field and it's been proven otherwise. That's how I feel. Right. If I'm on the bench, but I haven't seen the field yet, and I feel like I'm killing it in practice, I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to be doing, and somebody's just in front of me because it's their turn.
Right.
Great. Damari Alston should feel like I'm better than Jarquez Hunter.
Yeah.
But Jarquez is nice, and he's going to get his shot. But he better not slip up because I'm nice.
Right.
And if I get the job, I might not give it back.
Yep.
For sure.
That's it, man. Like, listen, when Tom Brady took the job from Drew Bledsoe, I promise you, he felt the whole time he was better. He took the job from him. He never gave it back. To the tune of a whole bunch of Super Bowls. That's how you should feel. And that was a guy they said was a 6th rounder. If you haven't seen the Brady 6, incredible documentary. There's 6 guys they picked before Tom Brady. Nobody knew he was going to be that good. I think he validated it too when he went to Tampa and won a Super Bowl. I'm that dude. And I know there's a small part of him, if not a bigger part of him, more than he'll say publicly, that likes that New England has struggled to find success in his absence.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that we're clear, I'm so much that dude, the best coach in history, still needed me, TB. I'm a whole ass brand. I'm a whole movement. So I just think kids in today's age feel that way about their talent. And if you feel that way, you're not going to sit and wait behind some guy. You shouldn't. You should go someplace where, again, where we started this, where you can get some tape.
Right.
Because it's going to be
it
too hard.
always, man, I feel terrible watching kids in the transfer portal post practice footage, and that's all you have to validate whether or not somebody should pick you up, right? Or you're still living off of your huddle film from high school to try to entice somebody.
Emba did it last night, didn't he? That?
Yeah. Yeah.
Emba put out, hey, it was the only play we ran. Look at me. If he feels like This year, he's not going to put tape on. He absolutely should transfer out. Go someplace where you can get some tape. But sitting on Auburn's bench ain't going to get you into the league.
Yeah.
It's not. Sure. Now maybe if you have a bomb combine and you are a freak athlete, and you know what I mean?
But even with that, still you need some tape.
You need some tape, man.
You're not getting drafted that way. You might get an undrafted free agent, maybe get a practice squad thing, and people get you on. They're like, "How did you not?" But like, the USFL is probably your future,
right? Well, by Pate's logic, he should sit on Auburn's bench and ride it out. That's what I heard. And I'm like, no, if you can step down a little bit, go to Memphis or something.
Yeah, go wreck shopping.
Yeah, again, go to UCF. You know,
go become the dude
taking
somewhere.
All the players, right?
Yeah.
Gus
take it. I'm not mad at it. Because again, you hate to see those kids who. What's even worse is kids wait to like their final year and transfer somewhere, and then they have to transfer to a small school, right? Like it hits them later in life or later in their career that, hey, I just need to go play somewhere, right? I want to see like if those kids can realize that early on and transfer somewhere and really get developed, take about a year or two to really figure things out and really put something on tape that's more than a year. I'm happy for them. I really am. So I'm not mad at that message at all.
So that we're clear, I love me some Josh Pate. But I think he missed them. I think he missed the mark completely on his diet.
Hey, Josh Pate's friend of the show.
You put out enough takes, you're gonna say you're gonna have a bad take.
You're gonna have a bad one. That was a bad one. I think that was a bad one.
We should know, right? We should know. All right, guys. Listen, you're watching the Weekend Tailgate. We will get into the transfer portal news that's affecting Auburn, who Auburn is looking at. We see some of you guys leaving super chats and asking us questions. We will address those after the break. But do us a favor. Share this content so people can get in on the discussion. Help us with the YouTube algorithm and smash the like button. Help us out. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Take some time to acknowledge our sponsors.
This edition of the War Report is made possible by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Athletic Architects. For young athletes looking to secure their financial futures, let Athletic Architects help you start to build your financial house. Head over to buildthehouse.com. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, check out our friends at GWT2Energy.com.
Definite thanks to all the sponsors of the War Report. And thank you to those of you who continue to support us with membership. You shall be rewarded soon and very soon. Because we are getting into this film, man. We're going to be talking about A-Day stuff, positions, all that stuff. Whatever I could extract from A-Day, we're going to begin that film review this week. You want to jump on board with the membership so we can get that popping. Make sure you get your $5.99 status so we can always watch the replay of that stuff. If you are a member and you want to be generous to those that are in the community that have not taken the leap, you can gift memberships right now from the live chat. You can go ahead and do that. First month of membership will be on you. We're getting into this portal talk. So y'all know, hashtag get your weight up to get a He Gone t-shirt, courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Make sure if you're in the restaurant business, you hit up GWT2Energy.com to get all of that stuff going. And if you like to listen to podcasts, the War Report is there in the form of the Auburn Express. We need our podcast numbers to start jumping, man. So you guys get over to the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, and listen to that. Again, there is replay of the content that we have, mostly from the morning drop, but there's audio-only stuff with Mike, Mack, and Memes. We're going to probably get a Lobtown podcast in here as we start to get some more basketball news popping. So you guys make sure you get in here, listen to that stuff. The Amen Corner is coming back next week. We've had to take a little break, man. So shout out to my guys over there. But we're going to get back into the Amen Corner coming up. So you guys make sure you lock in with the Auburn Express, and your ears will thank you.
Grab some comments real quick before we get into portal talk. Corey Weber says, Deal, Frazier, and Fromm are seniors. Collins wouldn't affect them moving forward. So that's that comment. Yep. Trevor Thornton says, he asks, when are we getting the film, Mike?
Hey, this week, Friday, Thursday, I think is when I have targeted to get it out there. So
I thought was funny was the stuff that Imba put up was all 22.
From practice,
yeah, he put up the all 22. I thought it was funny that he put up the all 22. Just put it out there. Here's some all 22. I'm out. There's definitely not stuff they want floating out there, but okay.
Definitely what you do when you're on your way out, right?
Yeah, right.
Kowalski Jones says prayers up for the families in Dateville. Was heard about the situation there. Our thoughts and prayers with those affected. You're definitely in our thoughts for sure. Let's talk some portal news, gentlemen. As you know, you guys know by now, Auburn has had 3 players enter the transfer portal from Auburn. They are Jeffrey Imba, Tavares Dawson, Desmond Tisdall. As pertains to Jeffrey Imba played in 9 games last year, total of 82 total snaps. He had 4 pressures on the year, which includes 1 sack and 3 hurries. He had 3 total tackles on the season. Desmond Tisdall played in 3 games this season with a total of 46 total snap counts. He registered 3 solo tackles and 4 assisted tackles. Tavares Dawson, mind you, played in 4 games. He kind of shut it down midway through the season, played a total of 42 snap counts, 5 targets, 2 receptions for a total of 30 yards on the season. Not a lot of production from these guys listed here, but of course, many of us was excited about the potential and the ceiling of one Jeffrey Imba. We knew he was a raw talent, hadn't played a lot of football, but we was curious to see if he would realize his talent in an Auburn jersey. That no longer appears to be the case. And as Ike pointed out, and I forgot, we actually did a special dedicated to him committing to Auburn. So Ike, you gave your thoughts on this. B Will gave his thoughts on Friday's morning drop. Guys, please be sure to check that out to hear their take on it. But Mike, let me know your thoughts on this.
First and foremost, I'd like to take this time, as you have graciously given me the floor, to take a victory lap on Tavares Dawson. Now, I tried to tell people he was going a few weeks ago. My good friend Zach Blackerby disagreed in a discussion that we were having about Jay Fair and why I think Jay Fair is somebody to watch. Now, Dawson is out of here. And it kind of bolsters my point about where they're going with this roster, particularly at the wide receiver position. They have guys that they like, right? And they have other guys who they may not dislike, but they don't like as much as some of the other guys they like.
Right.
I felt like Dawson had his chance to get some of the aforementioned tape Ike was talking about. He didn't take advantage of it. And he is a great practice player, it seems. But we have said this. When you have 2 guys, if it's even, and one guy's younger and it's got a lot of time left in front of him, you go with the younger guy.
Yeah.
You go with the guy who has more time and all the potential left. If they're even. If he's already even with a guy who's had a couple years to try to figure it out, that guy's lost his job. I felt like that was Tavares Dawson. Personally. Now, Imba, I'm not gonna lie. I thought he was less likely to transfer. I called this one. I felt like he was less likely to transfer, but I'm also not shocked by it either, because he pretty openly questioned the Hugh Freeze hire on social media. He was already on the fence as soon as they hired Hugh Freeze.
I think he was on the fence as soon as Coach Harsin was out the door.
Right.
Facts.
Yeah, you know, a little emoji where it's like, right, like your eyebrows go.
Mm-hmm.
I think you put that out. And it was like, ooh, okay. So is he on like a morality kick, or he just didn't like I just didn't know where Imba was at about all this.
And to be fair, I made a great point on Friday. It's not like Jeffrey grew up in the state of Alabama.
Yeah, man.
Or grew up close to the program. Like, he had no coaching staff.
Yeah, he had literally no ties to this program other than the coaches that recruited him.
Right? Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not shocked at Imba that much. But, again, I don't know. People losing their minds over somebody who literally did nothing here. Doesn't make any sense to me.
Let me say something about this, because I don't like that sentiment of like, because a guy transferred who doesn't have stats, that doesn't mean anything for your program. It absolutely means something for your program, because you need depth and you need guys that you don't have to retrain what they're doing strategically and from a position standpoint. Like, not just because they don't have stats doesn't mean it's inconsequential. It's not as big a deal. But
I'm with you. I just don't see losing my mind over it, right? Like,
no, losing your mind over. I wouldn't lose my mind over anybody transferring. Let me be clear about that. There's not a person who would transfer from Auburn that I would lose my mind over. But I can't think of Jarquez Hunter, maybe, right? Like, if Jarquez Hunter was like, I'm out.
If Tank had done that last year, I'm not gonna hold you.
Yeah, we would have had a whole War Report special.
Yeah, but
Tank decides he's leaving Auburn. Yeah, that would.
I mean, but I would have said, hey,
that would have been weeping and gnashing of teeth on that episode.
Right.
I'd have said, Jarquez Hunter, you're up, man. Hey, let's go out here and show them why you are the best back in the SEC next year. Like, that's how I would have thought about it. We definitely would have needed to have a conversation about it. But my point is that you didn't do this, so I'm not accusing you of this. I don't like what people are doing on social media, being like, he wasn't that good anyway, or he would have won a spot.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, what are we doing?
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that either.
But we knew he was a project.
That's
my whole thing.
Yeah, of course. He's going to be a project wherever he goes, for sure.
It helps you keep it in perspective. If he leaves, you're disappointed because you knew it was going to be a process with him, and you wanted to see him realize it at Auburn. He's leaving, so you still know that whoever picks him still has to pick up the process and continue.
But see, I guess my point, or my thought process around that is, what do you think the vast majority of the other guys in the transfer portal are? They're going to be project players.
That's true.
If they were guys that were solid rotational players, that means that they had some sort of coaching issue that they were dealing with,
right?
Or it's probably money related at this point in time in the transfer. There's not just like a bunch of ready to start, take them out of the plastic. They just been waiting on the shelf dudes in the transfer portal during this period.
Especially this period.
Yeah. Now, if you got them during the off season, you might get a gem that was just tired of whatever situation, their coach left, that kind of thing. During this period, you're going to get a bunch of project guys who you think may turn into something, but they ain't shown too much on the field, or they're an older player who got usurped by a younger player, but they have some take that shows you maybe they can reclaim the glory days that they had as a sophomore, right? But it ain't gonna be a bunch of dudes. It's gonna be a bunch of Jeffrey Mbas out there in the portal that you're getting back for Jeffrey Mba.
Right.
So, like, the excitement that people, that's another roster spot that we can fill with somebody. Who are you filling with? Who are you filling with during this period? Ain't gonna be a bunch of dudes, man. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I hate it because it's another guy that came in with some hype that didn't see his potential here. That seems to be a theme kind of for Auburn over the last 10 years. Lots of dudes come in with hype and then leave very unhyped. So I hate it from that perspective. But again, I'm just not crying over it.
Yeah, definitely not something like anybody overreacting about this as if the program is done because Jeffrey Mba decided to leave. I think it's going too far the other direction.
Yeah, he's just another guy that wants to get something on tape. And who knows? Maybe he doesn't like the vision of this new DC in terms of defense. That's a whole slew of reasons he could be transferring.
I mean, I think the lesson for Auburn here is stop recruiting athletes from France. I think that's pretty much what we have understood. People who are highly talented that come from France do not belong on Auburn's rosters.
Johan and Jeffrey. The ancestors don't like us here. Let's move on. Right. I like Mba again. It just doesn't bother me. And then Tisdale, same thing, man. Like, they brought guys. They're bringing guys in. Expect guys to transfer. Every program is going through this right now.
I wasn't surprised about Tisdale. Like I expected,
not at all.
I expected a linebacker maybe to transfer out, given that they had kind of established the kind of the two deep from that position.
Yeah, you brought in Austin Keys. Yeah, right. Like, you brought in some talent. And to Ike's point, listen, bro, go someplace where you can get on the field and get some tape.
Yeah,
you're running out of time.
Yeah, that's you have a limited amount of eligibility to take advantage of. If the NFL is truly what you want to do, if you are one of those people who, and there's nothing wrong with this, that says, if I go to the NFL, cool, but I'm here to take advantage of the free education, by all means, ride your scholarship out. If you see the field, go out there and rec shop, maybe. But like, if you want to go to the league, man, you need some tape, bro. Like, I just don't know another way to say that. And sitting on the bench, and again, I'm not, it's a balancing act, right? Like, some people do need to be patient, and your time is coming. So take your rotational snaps. When the guy in front of you rotates out, you're going to step up. But if that next season, those rotational snaps don't turn into first and second team snaps, well, I'll let y'all. But by my junior year, you have not seen that I'm good enough to be on the field to be a starter.
Goodbye.
I need to be somewhere else taking advantage of the 2 years I got left and maybe a grad transfer year.
Yeah, not buried on the bench because it's Auburn or Alabama or Ohio State, right?
Sure.
You know, I mean, again, I don't know. Like, I mean,
that quarterback, again, that's a different situation because you don't need like you don't really need 3-4 years of tape to really make it. Like, there's a lot of dudes starting in the NFL right now that only really had 1 year of college tape to put out there,
and came from rinky-dink programs,
right? So
that you never heard of.
You can go cut up for 1 year and be good, but
you could be a top 5 pick from Vermont.
Yeah,
right. Like,
that's where it comes to the point where you have to have coaches that are willing to be honest with you and say, "Hey, we like you a lot, but I don't see it happening for you."
Yeah, it's a lot of coaches get this wrong a lot, right? B feels very strongly that Georgia got it wrong when they let Justin Fields walk and they start. Who was it? Fromm that they started?
Yeah,
It's hard to, in hindsight, it's hard to argue with that take. Now, I still feel like it's because it's not an exact science. They had a tough decision to make. I think it was a tougher decision than maybe B thinks it was, but it's still hard. And they let one walk. Now, again, what Pate is talking about, Fields is in a small percentage of athletes that can leave, go someplace else on the level of Georgia,
right,
and start immediately.
Right.
That's not the reality for most of these kids, though. And that's why I feel like his take falls short and is short-sighted. Because so a lot of these kids in the portal, guys, are moving from bench to bench.
Right.
Most of them are moving from bench to bench.
Or if they're getting picked up at all.
Right. And it's going to be
or they're sitting there not getting another opportunity. So you lost a scholarship because I don't know, man. And that's what makes it difficult, because without there being some sort of tampering involved, you're taking a risk when you jump into the portal because you don't know.
Absolutely.
You don't know if somebody really want or needs you, right? How much roster evaluation did you do to say, man, there's a bunch of teams around the country who could use my talents. I can name like, because that's hard, man. It's a lot. There's thousands of kids sitting in this portal right now, bro. They got to sift through all of these, and you're hoping that your Twitter post with practice film was enough. I don't know.
Yeah, man. Listen, when Arch Manning decides he's going to transfer, he's good.
Sure.
Right? When the kid from Oklahoma that just won the Heisman, Williams, was it?
Caleb,
Caleb Williams, he was good. He knew he was good when he transferred. There was no question about who Lincoln Riley was going to start when he decided to go to USC.
Right.
That's like 10 dudes in the whole country that legit can just transfer out and know that they have a starting job waiting on them.
Yeah, that everybody is going to be knocking down their door to try to get them to come to their program. It's just not.
Yeah, two handfuls.
It's not everybody's story.
Yeah, so for the kids who are transferring out now, I think this is we're not talking basketball right now, but I think it's applicable to basketball as well too. Go where you can play. Devin Cambridge went out to Arizona State. He shot a pretty good percentage from 3 out there, and he got more tape. I almost was questioning why he decided to transfer. Yeah, you guys might know more about it than I did. Why he's jumping in.
He went out there to play with his brother.
Okay.
And I think his brother's eligibility is up, or he's no longer there. And I think he's looking to play elsewhere now.
Yeah, one of those places. I think, weirdly enough, they were talking about him coming back to Auburn.
Yeah.
But I think it was good for him to get out there and get. I mean, he put some pretty good. I mean, he was Sports Center top 10 out there. At times I saw him on a Sports Center top 10 for a dunk.
That's not surprising. It's Devin Cambridge. He can jump out of the gym.
Yeah, man. Listen, put it on tape. Put it on tape wherever you go. But you know what? It's just there's no point in sitting on the bench anywhere if you feel like you can get in the game and play. Where was Steph Curry? Like Davidson? Steph Curry?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's not. I mean, and Davidson's not a bad program by any stretch of the imagination. But my point is that there are higher profile programs that Steph Curry could have gone to. But maybe in the talent evaluation at those programs, his name isn't enough to get him on the court the way he wants to.
Yeah, no, he was gonna be a bench guy at somebody's team, and they're gonna have him out there, and they're gonna be like, yeah, he could shoot, because we got to think about the evolution of the league too. Like, yeah, he can shoot, but he's undersized, so he's not gonna be able to physically stand up to this and this and that. And then you see him at Davis. I mean, same thing. Look at John.
And let's
Steph Curry if he had gone to do.
And let's be clear. It took Steph Curry a while to become Steph Curry because he was dealing with injuries to his ankle.
Yeah, for sure.
When he started in the NBA, people were like, "Oh, he can shoot, but he can't because of the injury thing." They were like, "He's not going to have a long career." They thought it was going to be. They still wanted Monte Ellis to be that guy at the Warriors.
Yeah, he wasn't going to lose his job to injury at Davidson, right? But he might have lost it to injury at Texas
or North Carolina,
North Carolina,
or Duke,
Kentucky.
Yeah, and that's all I'm saying. It was better for him to be there. Yeah. Now, he's got a legendary work ethic, man. Like, you're talking about somebody who is special up here, right? Sure. And I'm not a Steph Curry fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I recognize that he's a real one. And, this idea with these kids that are transferring out, I just think it's the same thing. Go where you can play. Go where you can play. Go where you can play. And I have to imagine for them, life is probably more fun anyway when you're playing than sitting on the bench somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I'd rather be in the game. I'd rather be in the game, tearing it up at, Blinn than on the bench at Florida, wondering if I'm ever going to get my shot.
For sure.
So,
staying with portal news, guys, let's talk about some moves that's been made. Auburn recently offered someone who's in the portal, Tulsa's offensive lineman Jaden Muscarat, who actually started several games last year, I believe 11 to be exact, at right tackle. If he does commit to Auburn, he is projected to play on the inside, if I'm not mistaken. But he is a guy who Auburn has targeted for the O-line, and we kind of felt like Hugh Freeze and company were going to go after some more O-linemen in the portal even before spring. So this doesn't surprise me that this is the most recent news. Of course, Dylan Wade is already tweeting at his former teammate there, hoping that he comes on board with Auburn. Thoughts on this target, gentlemen?
Yeah, listen, if you don't like it, you do this if you don't feel good about your two deep right now. I think that Auburn potentially has a very good starting five on O-line. Or a better starting five than last year. Let me put it that way. But injuries happen, and you have to build depth at that position as well too. Now, you're not changing out O linemen during the game unless there's an injury,
right?
So, but injury is a real part of it, and I just think if they don't feel like they're there yet at the two deep, then yes, you keep recruiting until you feel like you're good at the two deep. If you got scholarships available, and you don't feel like you have, you can have 2 to 3 injuries on O-line and plug and play and keep it pushing, keep recruiting, keep bringing in guys until you feel solid that you've got guys that can do it. I just think with the portal, this is getting harder to do because if you do have a guy who can step in, this is why recruiting is still the best way to build a program.
Yes.
I agree.
Because a freshman that you bring in is more likely to wait their turn than some dude in the portal, right? Yeah. Or some guy who you already have at your two deep, because if it were me, I would rather, let's say I've got a senior and junior laden offensive line, and there's an injury, right? But I have a highly heralded true freshman that could play, but we're giving him some time to develop. I'd rather that kid step in. I would rather have a kid like that to step in than anything else. So, the portal can be, I think, could turn into some people's doom, because kind of like how we bemoaned Gus over relying on JUCO transfers to come in. And, some of those kids had prolific 1 years and then left. But it's hard to build a program that way because you don't have a pipeline.
Yep.
Sure. Like, are you going to find a Nick Fairley in the portal every year? No, you're not. You're not. You're not going to find a Cam Newton in the portal every year either. You're not going to find a Nick Marshall every year. As a matter of fact, you got lucky to find those.
Right.
So I mean, it was luck and timing. So this is why I think bringing in linemen is smart. Sure. But this is a problem that you solve through recruiting, especially at O-line. It is a developmental position, and much to everybody's somehow to their disbelief, there are not a ton of quality offensive linemen in the portal. This might be one of the worst positions to recruit from the portal. Everybody's like, why don't we go to the portal for some O-linemen? Listen, O-line is one of those positions where, again, if your team isn't good, you can still be good at O-line. You can still block the dude in front of you. So guys aren't running if they're already starting. If you're good and they've got you on there, guys aren't running from their programs in droves. Now, what you might get in the portal is you might get a freshman who feels like he's ready to play and doesn't want to sit. And he spent his freshman year, and then he decides, you know what, I'm going to go someplace where I can play but you're talking about those programs that recruit at such a high level that they've got a bunch of those guys. So this is, to me, the portal is not the answer for the offensive line. Now, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that. The offensive line is it's developmental it's in the player development, but it's also developmental in terms of recruiting. Start recruiting quality offensive linemen, and hopefully by year 2 or 3 or 4, you fixed it.
Yeah. The portal is not a good long-term solution.
No,
if you're fortunate to find someone for the short term, which is what Hugh Freeze is doing. But I also give Hugh Freeze and staff a lot of credit for definitely going out and trying to recruit O-linemen as well.
Yeah, I think that the urgency of the portal for them is about winning now.
Correct.
Right.
It's about trying to get guys at least with some snaps, and they have to build depth.
Yeah. Right. Like, how do I field a team in 4 months that's going to be able to compete and win 7 or 8 games? Because make no mistake, if Hugh Freeze wins less than 7 games next year, I promise you he'll consider the season a failure. He may not say it out loud, but I promise you he will consider that a failure.
I think he'll say it out loud.
Yeah, right.
I mean, yeah, when is he held? Yeah,
yeah. I mean, he came out and said recently that if they're not if their recruiting isn't in the top like 9 to 7 to 9 range, like either this year or next year, he said we're gonna be looking for jobs in a couple of years.
Yeah,
he gets it. He gets it. So the portal is about how do I find the best talent available now and put all those guys together and win games now, enough to keep boosters engaged, fans engaged, and sell to everybody that the program is headed the right direction. And then buy myself some time to develop the guys that I'm recruiting. And in 3 years, field a championship squad. And maybe you get a dynamic recruit or somebody like Caleb Williams falls in your lap. Now, I remember when Caleb decided to hit the portal, and we knew some things. I was just like, there were a lot of people who were just like, we're going to get him. We're going to get Caleb Williams. I was like, guys, Caleb Williams is not coming to Auburn. He's just not. Why would he? What does Auburn have to offer this guy that every other program in the country doesn't have to offer him, that doesn't have the mess that Auburn has? People were like, started whole message board threads. Well, Mike G said he's not coming, so hang it up. Well, they might actually be in a better position now to offer something to somebody like Caleb Williams should that person decide to hit the portal for whatever reason. Now, for Caleb, it was my coach left. Clearly, he followed that coach right to his program.
Worked out well for him.
Oh man, won a Heisman. Now they don't play pass defense in the pack, so it
Even
worked
better.
out on a lot of levels. Yeah.
Even better.
I swear, half the quarterbacks in that league put up Heisman numbers last year.
Even better.
That kid
that is actually factual. Like when you go and look at the list of quarterbacks that were on the Heisman list, the vast majority of them were in the pack.
Kid up at Washington, Michael Penix, he was putting up crazy numbers. Oregon State's quarterback, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams. It was like half the
for
league.
UCLA that was playing well too.
Yeah, right. Like half the league, man. I was like, what are they doing over there? Are all these dudes that prolific, or are they not playing defense? I think the latter is more likely.
Yeah, there was like 2 good defenses in that entire conference.
Yeah, come on, man. So really smart decision for him because now.
But hold on, before you get in your little panty drawer over there in the Pac-12. I'm not saying you don't have good quarterback play up there. I'm just saying it's a little bit easier to do it when you're playing 7-on-7.
It's a lot easier. A lot. Georgia showed that game 1.
Yeah. Both
game
times.
1. No points.
Boogie better. No, Bo's
touchdowns.
not playing Georgia.
0 touchdowns. All right. And Georgia, we were sitting here before the season questioning whether that defense could be as prolific as the year before. They were better. Somehow they got better on defense after losing all them guys. And then playing half the season without their best defensive player. What was his name? Roquan Smith?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The linebacker? Right.
No, it wasn't Roquan Smith. That was it was Nolan Smith.
Nolan Smith. I'm sorry. Why did I say Roquan?
Roquan was a former Georgia guy, but he's already in the league. He's but still.
See, they got so many good players, you just get them mixed up. But I think that it was, if you're looking for a guy like that to come in, there are a few. I think Auburn is in a better position to land a player like that now than they were 2 years ago. Personally, I think that. I do think that if you were.
So hold on, wait a minute, pause. So you're saying if there was a Caleb Williams in the portal coming up next year, Auburn would be in a better position to land him this year?
Yeah,
2 years ago.
I think with Hugh Freeze,
better position. Yeah, I still think the answer would be no.
But with NIL,
in a better position
with NIL as well too. With just the overall state of the program,
I actually agree with that.
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't disagree that we're in a better position.
I'm not saying
still would put us well into the unlikely category.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but like, listen, if we're talking about hitting the lottery, look, I mean, what if your chances were below 0?
We have better odds.
Like,
I'm saying to do this. I just see this like you was pinning on Keesaw getting Caleb Williams versus Hugh.
Right.
Like we're in much better position.
Yeah. Like you went from terrible to maybe average odds.
Yeah, okay. I can agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not saying
no guarantees here, but you gotta like your chances a lot better today.
Mm-hmm. I think that Hugh Freeze has a much better sell to somebody like that than Harsin and whoever and his mess of a coordinator situation that he had.
For sure. Let's grab some.
I have something. He was biting. He was holding something.
No. I was like, that's why I feel bad for a lot of the kids that are on the team right now because the coordinator situation. Like we talk about the head coach situation, the coordinator situation has been nuts.
It's been crazy.
Yeah.
Like you think about a guy who played in the wide receiver room and came in under Gus, like a guy like Javarius Johnson. How many wide receiver room coaches has he had?
Oh my God, that poor guy.
Yeah.
What was it? Cornelius Williams.
Yes.
Whoever he had under.
But I'm saying he would have started his freshman year with Gus as Cody Burns. Cornelius Williams. Then it would have been Eric Keesau. Then it would have been Ike Hilliard. And now you got Marcus. Like he's had
on his
five coordinators in 4 years.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Same thing for defensive line coaches. Crazy.
Yeah.
If you have been here, who's the senior statesman? Is there anybody who's been here that long?
Oof. That's a great question.
I don't even think we have any defensive linemen that go back that far. Colby Wooden would have been the one if he had stayed for his senior season. So Colby would have been like on his 5th defensive line coach.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Agreed. Yeah. So, I mean, I agree with that 100%. Like it's been nuts. We talk about it a lot as it pertains to quarterbacks. having to go through different coordinators. But the truth is, there's some other positions that just got really slammed by this coordinator shuffle.
Yeah.
And I just think that Hugh Freeze has a better sell from a coordinator position. Like, it just feels more stable, does it not? Like, it feels more
we'll
stable
see.
to me.
We'll see. I mean, he
it
just got
depends
here,
on how
so
he
we'll see.
retains the talent, right? Like I think that he is in a more stable position, but God,
he has a lot of young guys, so there
Right.
will be some more stability there because they're
they come out
building-
and they have a good season. People are going to go try to poach the talent from the staff and be like, okay, well, we'll bring Marcus Davis in to be our offensive coordinator at some Group of 5 program.
Yeah, listen, here's the deal. This is part of recruiting as well for our head coaches, too. Keep your staff together for 2 years.
Yeah.
Keep a staff, have success and keep a staff together for 2 years. But losing coordinators is something that comes with success. Ask Nick Saban.
Sure.
He's running through offensive coordinators.
Kirby now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's funny. Like, now a lot of people really hated this take, but the Kevin Steele hire for Saban was curious to me. I thought it was one of the first hires that he's made in a long time where I felt like there is probably close to 0 head coaching jumps for him where he's at.
He's towards the end of his career. Though.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting that he hired a guy like that. So, because that's not been the case. Everyone who's been a coordinator there, either position, has had a head coaching opportunity within a few years. So, Hugh Freeze, if he's
previous DC made a lateral move.
Oh, Pete Golding. Yeah. It was kind of a mess though. Like, he was an internal promotion, wasn't he? I think Golden was someplace else on staff. Yeah. But they don't do that a lot there. And my point is that if you're going to have any measure of success as a head coach, you're going to have to deal with coaching turnover.
You hear that, T-Rob? They don't do that a lot there.
T-Rob. Oh man, that would hurt. That would hurt.
A whole bunch of shrapnel made its way to Tuscaloosa.
Oh my god, yeah, I hate it, man. He was one of my favorite guys that got, like, T-Rob. If you don't know anything about T-Rob, I mean, he's a good person.
Yeah,
like, he's a really good person. That's why it was a really, like, I don't know. He's one of the only people that could be an Auburn grad and go to Bama to coach that I would not question their moral fortitude after a decision like that.
Yeah.
But T-Rob was just, when I was filming,
get out now, T-Rob, is what we're trying to tell you. Get out.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah. I mean, there were a lot of guys that are just jerks, man. Like, some of these players.
Charles Kelly should have told you they don't want you to stay there, bro.
Yeah, man. Like, he's just too good a person. I remember I was carrying my camera in for practice one day, and they had canceled practice because the wind was whipping. Like, it was, if you go to an Auburn football practice now, there's nobody in towers anymore.
Yeah, you would have still been up there if it had been Notre Dame and that guy coaching.
Yeah, right. Brian Kelly would have had me floating like an umbrella on Mario Kart. But, like,
it'd be 3 of us at the War Report.
Oh,
or
goodness.
with War Report at all.
I would have been fired. I'd be like, I ain't doing this, homie. I'm not doing this for you. I ain't got insurance for this. But I remember the wind was whipping this particular day, and I had on this big, like, overcoat thing, and I was 145 pounds wet, but the wind was whipping so hard it actually knocked me over with my camera, right? And T-Rob comes over, like, man, probably 15 players, like, walked by me because I'm trying to protect my camera from, like, the ground and the wet. And T-Rob walks by. He was like, "What's up, Ludacris?" They called me Ludacris for some reason, and picks me up off the ground.
It was the braids, bro.
Yeah, it was some braids. Yeah. It was pretty emasculating because he picked me up under my arms like I was a kid, like I was a baby. It was like, and I was like, "Thanks, but F you," right? And he was the type of person, or he is the type of person that will not walk by somebody in need and not stop and help, no matter how small. He's the type of guy that if he would walk by a piece of paper on the ground, he's gonna pick it up and put it in the trash. I mean, just an outstanding person. They got a good person when they hired him, and that's what irks me so much about the hire was because he would be such a good culture fit for Auburn. I think he knows it, obviously, because Auburn produced him.
Right.
I think that's why he is who he is, right? Part of it. So, yeah, that one hurt. That one hurt. Anyway, that was a little T-Rob story for y'all.
Let's grab some comments and get to this drawing, guys. Oda Smith, you've been commenting about this guy. We've seen it. We saved it for this segment here just to ask, have you heard the buzz going around that Malik, I believe his name is Malik Murphy, the QB from Texas, might head this way, or is that just BS?
Yeah, listen.
He's not even in the portal.
Yeah, I was about to say, if they're not in the portal, then I don't.
No,
there's not much that we can discuss in terms of that. Well, we're not on the program. We can discuss what we want to, but still.
So Texas fans felt like he had the best spring game of all the quarterbacks. And I saw some highlights.
Threw a great deep ball.
Deep ball to the outside right.
Yeah.
And he had a good, but he also wasn't going against first team D. So there were a lot of people who just felt like, hey, man, like this kid can throw. And this is, again, what I'm talking about programs where they're recruiting at a high level. You got Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning in that room, who are considered two of the highest rated recruits of all time in the ESPN recruiting era, right? Arch Manning is the highest rated ever recruit to commit to a Big 12 school. And, Ewers was like the second highest rated recruit of all time, period, like our quarterback. I mean, he came in with that. So is it a stretch that some other guy they recruited that is a 4-star could be hidden talent sitting on their bench? I don't think that's the stretch at all.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think that's a stretch at all. This guy could be really, really, really good. And he's probably going through it in his head right now. Am I ever going to start in front of these two otherworldly talents?
And so that is a fair conversation to be had about him transferring, because he feels like the guy in front of me, unless he gets hurt, I'm not beating him out because he's got the tape in front of me. The guy behind me is everybody's favorite from all over the country. So
politics. Politics.
So next
he
year,
has a name that
right.
That
next year,
have.
that's the heir apparent. Do I need to get up out of here right now? But this is the same thing that I've been saying the entire time. I'm not saying there won't be talented quarterbacks in the portal. This would be an example of one. But he don't have more playing experience than anybody on our team. Right. So him throwing one deep shot, is that better than the one deep shot Robbie hit during our A-Day game? Like, what are we comparing it to? He hasn't played in a real game.
Right.
So, yes, he might be super talented. And I'm not saying Auburn shouldn't go after him if he hits the portal. I'm saying he hasn't played any real games. So just what you're doing is saying, well, he's got more potential than anybody else. Why does that mean that he's better than Holden Gerner? You don't know that. You literally do not know that, and you're going to roll the dice. Again, not saying you shouldn't do it, not saying that they're dumb if they do it. I'm saying people acting as if this is some upgrade that's wishful thinking at best. It's wishful because you don't know. And maybe he's amazing.
Who knows?
Yeah. But to my point, I think if this kid hits the portal in a week, Auburn is in a better position than they were 2 years ago to go after a talent like this.
I'll agree with that.
Right, like than they were. Now, that still might not be great chances, but ultimately, I think they're better positioned to get somebody like this who knows, who could be like a Joe Burrow type, buried on somebody's bench, and then makes it out of there and is a star, ends up being the best one. Because those guys that Joe Burrow was behind at Ohio State, they weren't slouches. They weren't scrubs. Right? I want to say, God, what's the guys? The first guy? It was JT Barrett and the other guy was a Heisman candidate.
I don't recall.
Yeah, it was JT Barrett and another guy. Chat, help me out if you remember who the other guy was. But they weren't slouches. They were guys that it was like, hey, these guys are good. And he had probably what is the best passing season of any quarterback in NFL in college football history, and has already been to a Super Bowl in like 3 years. So, like I said, I don't think it's a stretch. Like, keep an eye out for guys like this. I don't think he's coming to Auburn. I don't, like I said, his was, have we heard the hype around it? I think a lot of that hype is just generated because of the portal. And a lot of people think, you got guys like Pablo. Listen, I love Pablo, but every time somebody jumps in the portal, he puts out a graphic that says, "You are an Auburn Tiger." Right?
Yeah, it's just his bit. You're either talking about Braxton Miller or Cardale Jones. I don't know which one you're talking about.
Braxton Miller.
Probably have to go Braxton Miller.
Braxton Miller. It was Braxton Miller. And there's a lot of speculation, and with social media, you just never know whether that speculation is rooted in anything the coaches are actually thinking or if it's a fan narrative. I think this is more of a fan narrative than anything right now, because like I said, we haven't heard anything. I have not heard anything about him even considering the portal. I just know it wouldn't be a shock given the two guys that are in front of him.
Right.
Common sense, right? If Archie Manning decides he's staying and Ewers starts, like, why would he stay?
And we're not plugged into Texas's program, but if we were to believe the narrative,
if I were him, I would definitely. I'd wait
through
this season though, but like, there's no reason for me to be there next year though.
Yeah, freshman. I mean,
because Ewers is already proven he can get hurt during the season. You can have a chance to step in there, but like after this year,
yeah, you're not sitting around waiting on people to get hurt, right? No. Like so that you can get a shot,
right?
If he's second string, if it depends. If he's the too deep coming out of the spring or going into the fall, then yeah, he should sit around and wait because he'll have a chance to get a shot. But outside of that, the next year I'm going to go somewhere where I know I can be ready to start because they're going to be like, oh, this is a definite upgrade from what we've got.
And again, to Mike's point, if there's meddling going on, it's a likelihood that I know I can just outplay my way into the starting role.
Yeah.
Alan Berry says, you guys have a great show, and this is coming from an Alabama fan, so I ain't on that ish. Thank you, Alan. Thank you for the love there. Appreciate it.
All right. We found the one. We found the one Alabama fan of the day that the universe has decided is a good person. See,
Alan, did you actually attend the university? Because I find that people who actually went to school
Alabama, not that
like
bad.
The ones that actually went to school there, they're actually pretty decent people overall. Mm-hmm. For the most part. But the ones who are fans that never ever went to the school, that's the few and far between.
Yeah. They're the ones that they say those aren't real Bama fans, even though they are. Yeah.
Sidewalk alumni.
Sherman Sawyer says, are we over the scholarship limit of 85 at this point?
I don't think
we know that? I don't think we are.
But I don't think scholarship limit is like right now.
All right, guys, it's draw time. What are we drawing for? We're drawing for the He Gone t-shirt. All right. You already know what to do. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments, courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. I'm ready to go. So
let's get to it, man. 76 people decided they wanted to take the opportunity to get them a free shirt today. Only one person could win. I saw Robbie's mom in there. Brandon Camille. That's a new name.
It is a new name. Brandon, are you here though? All right. Can the new name actually get this shirt? Let us know in the comments that you're here, or else people are going to treat you like the guys in the portal. You gone. So let us know if you're here, sir. Let's go ahead, Mike.
Let's see real quick.
Hey,
hold on.
There he is.
He's here. He is here. Do us a favor, sir. Congrats, by the way. We want you to email us business@thewar report. Email us business@thewar report. We want your physical address as well as your shirt size. Send us your shirt size and your physical address, and that He Gone t-shirt will be coming your way. Congratulations and thanks again for watching and supporting the War Report. What you got, Mike?
I think a lot was made over a recent conversation we had on the show about because people reached out to me privately about the discussion we had as a group on messaging when it comes to players. And
oh God, yes, I've definitely heard quite a bit about this as well.
So I just want to address this one more time and we can move on from it. I don't think, if you watch this, you know, no coach is above reproach. And I don't think that it's wrong to say, I feel like, or from what we can see, the messaging could be better in terms of showing more support for the players that you have on the roster and their development, and how some of this portal talk, this we need talent talk, is somewhat disrespectful is probably not the
It's
right word.
discouraging to guys who are on
It's
that
not.
roster
It's not
working
it's
hard.
not a morale booster.
Yeah,
at all.
discouraging is a better word. To the guys that you have that you're going to need to play hard for you this year.
Yeah.
And again, that's all I'll say. That was the only point to that discussion was you can talk about needing talent without disparaging the current roster.
Right.
And it just felt like the reach every time a reporter would ask a question about the portal, it was very disparaging of the current roster. In particular, I mean, we talk a lot about it wasn't just quarterback, it centers around quarterback. But I was encouraged to finally hear the head coach say, I think we can win with the guys that we have now. No program in America is not going to get better if they have a chance to.
Right.
So let me tell you something. No matter how happy you are with your quarterbacks, if Quinn Ewers says, I want to visit Auburn, you're going to take that visit.
Yeah.
You're absolutely going to consider it. Now, if you are in a position where you're that deep and he wants to come in and compete, you're not going to say no to that. Because even if you don't start him, you're not playing against him. Somebody else doesn't have him.
Right.
So as a coach, you're still taking that prospect. But the messaging from here forward from the coaching staff needs to help build the guys who are already in the room. Because you're going to have way more of those guys, and you're going to depend on way more of them than you are anybody that you're going to bring in from the portal, because that's going to be a handful of dudes who you don't even know if they're going to fit yet.
Right. But here's my bad. I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
No. I was just saying, like, looking to the portal for a savior is not a good strategy to me. Again, look for what you can get. And if somebody clearly improves your room, great, go after them.
Right.
But this whole thing where we're so unhappy with the guys that we have, and there's no belief, or there's a lack of focus on development of the guys that you have. Those are still the guys, the coaches who know how to develop the rosters that they have are still the ones winning, guys, not the ones going out and finding miracles in the portal. Right. And it might produce a miracle season, but it is not a long-term formula for success. We'll
see that at Kansas State in just a minute.
Right. We just went through 8 years of it with Gus. Find your miracle JUCO. It'll produce a miracle season. Right back to cellar dwellers a year or two later. Find your Jarrett Stidham. Oh, man, we're almost there. But lack of development means you couldn't beat Georgia when it mattered the most. And then you handed Alabama another championship in a year they didn't even win the SEC. Auburn could have stopped that. Facts. You win the SEC championship, one of those teams is not in.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
If not both of them. Win. They should have been able to win that game. You blew them out the first time, and then you got blown out the next time.
Yeah.
Right? But you build a program through recruiting and true development, not looking for miracle talents in the portal, trying to hit the lottery. I just don't. It's not a good strategy. So,
and my whole point about this whole thing is not once in that entire conversation did I ever say you don't want to upgrade the talent in your rooms. And if you feel like you can upgrade the talent, you absolutely upgrade the talent. My point was that if the only time I talk to my coach or hear from my coach about my talent is when he's saying it lacks, that's discouraging for me.
Right.
If we're having conversations routinely about that, why is the only time you talking about me is to tell me I'm not good? That was my entire, and I don't know how that's missed in the conversation about how that feels to some. That's not about somebody being weak-minded. That's not about somebody not wanting to compete. That's saying, okay, if the only time I ever hear from you or hear about myself from you is to critique that I'm not doing good enough, that That's gonna hurt anybody's feelings, man. Like all of this, I'm just gonna work harder stuff. Y'all aren't being real with yourself. Like that's not how the world works, bro. It's just not.
Right.
That's just not how the world works. People don't do that. The people don't sit there and just let you crap on them publicly all the time, but you don't even give me any praise privately. And you think I'm gonna just sit there and take that.
Or if you are getting the feedback in private and I hear you go and speak to the media publicly that way, I got questions. Did what you tell me, was that valid? Is that really how you felt?
The messages have to match up for sure.
Correct.
Right.
And so, but now again, I'm not putting this all on Coach Hugh Freeze. I think the people who are in those rooms with those young men are the ones that have the biggest responsibility to communicate that out to them. But there's another portion of this that people miss completely. Even if that young man does want to compete and he does want to stick and stay and none of this impacts him, you know who it does impact, who almost never hear from the coaches? That family that all they hear is my son's not good enough. And they know some coach has been blowing their phone up saying, is your son happy? Is your son happy? Well, my son can go play for somebody else.
Right.
And they're going to start putting pressure on that kid to say, well, you know, your coach saying maybe we can go over here. It's not as linear a situation as people want to make it seem. My entire point is that you have to consider all of those things when you're making comments, and sometimes that's going to backfire on you. So you have to figure out how to balance out that equation. And if you don't balance the equation, you start hemorrhaging talent.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know why that's a controversial statement to make, but I also don't know why Cam Newton's statement was controversial.
Well, my DM started blowing up about it, right? Like, you know, are you guys saying that he doesn't support the players? And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that messaging has to be right if you want that to be the perception that you do.
Yeah, in today's day and age where kids can just say, you know what? I hit the portal. I think you have to be a bit more mindful of we love an honest coach, but sometimes that can backfire on you when it comes to the players you're trying to keep on your roster.
So let me say this, because Lisa asked the question. Lisa asked, what makes you think those conversations aren't happening internally? Because I've talked to people.
Yeah. And we're asking him straight up.
Right. Coach Hugh Freeze.
Have you sat down with
everybody's
X, Y, and Z?
account, not just the War Report, not just by everybody's account, is not super heavily involved in the talent eval internally for this team.
Yeah.
He said himself, he can't do all that. He's focused on trying to build a good recruiting program, and he's letting so again, that's the only time they're ever hearing from Coach Hugh Freeze about their talent is what you're hearing in the media.
Right. Which is why, and let me tell you something, which is why I would all right, listen, I know my DMs are going to start blowing up after this. I would criticize some media who repeatedly ask questions in that vein about the portal. Because there are some media members who are stuck on the idea that Auburn doesn't have any talent.
Correct. And they're helping to push that narrative.
So they keep asking him that question. And sometimes, and he's answering it the way he thinks he needs to answer it.
Right. So, this is not some big, huge Coach Hugh Freeze isn't the right fit for Auburn, bad coach. And I think that's where people are trying to spin it into we have some issue with Coach Hugh Freeze.
No,
we don't.
No.
He's given us his time. I don't have some agenda against Coach Hugh Freeze. I think he's going to be an amazing coach for Auburn. I'm just saying that messaging could potentially be damaging to some kids.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it definitely will not help you with some kids. And I think that if he's got the right people in his ear, somebody should be telling him that. Hey, coach, when you talk, people have whole PR teams just for this purpose, right? To make sure that when you send a message publicly, that it is actually pushing you to achieving the goals that you're trying to achieve. Because it is very easy when you talk in front of the media constantly to inadvertently say something that pisses somebody off, and you didn't realize, you didn't look at it from that angle. We do it all the time.
Correct.
Yeah. Sure. When somebody will come back and they'll be like, hey, when you guys said this is how it came off. Right. And if I get enough of that feedback, I'll address it publicly and say, hey, listen, it seems like the messaging may have gotten lost in what we were trying to talk about. Let's circle back on this real quick and make sure that we're on the same page. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. The messaging got lost, I think, for some. Most of you got it, but for some, about where we were going on how he talks publicly about the players that he has versus the conversations that you have or haven't had with them publicly. I'm just saying privately. I'm just saying if you haven't had a conversation with a guy privately, which we know that that's happened because we've asked him directly. He's on the record about that, saying, I'm taking more of a CEO approach. Harsin took a different approach where, after the spring, he sat down with everybody one-on-one just about and their position coach. And it was 2 weeks of player evals.
Yeah, and to be fair, I do think that Coach Harsin was a little micromanagerial, and he should have let his position coaches handle that a little bit more. But my point, or the point that we made multiple times, is finding the balance between the two.
Right. Yeah.
That's it.
But I promise you, like, based on what we could see, there was no way he was saying something. There was probably less of a chance that he was saying something publicly that didn't match up with what he told that player privately, or he would say nothing at all. Right. So, sometimes nothing at all would have been probably be better in these situations. That's why I say I do kind of question some of the media members that keep pushing the narrative that there's no talent, because he's giving what he thinks he needs to give as an answer. And it's very disparaging to some of the kids there are in the roster. And he hasn't had a chance to sit down with some of these kids yet, one-on-one, and say, here, this is where I feel like you're at right now. So, I don't know, man. That's part of when you take over a program, that's part of the process. You got to get to know your guys. And I'll tell you, I felt like 2 coaches ago, we had a coach who was very selective in who he got to know, which is why discipline was unusually heavy-handed for some guys and super patient for others. The ones get to mess up multiple times. The ones you don't, he's out of here. We're done. That's how relationships work. It was just sad, because some of those guys, very unfairly got heavy-handed punishment. Yeah, I think that if he knew those guys, he sat down with them and spent more time with them, the punishment would not have been so heavy-handed. And then when they were vindicated after the fact, you didn't ruin their chance of a football career.
Right.
So, I hope that Coach Hugh Freeze takes that same tactic, right? And just make sure you get to know your team, man. Get to know these guys. 99% of them are worth that effort from their head coach. Sure. So when something goes down, inevitably, you can point to the relationship and the conversations that you've had with them and say, this is who I know him to be. Rather than, or if a guy has, a tough day at practice, and maybe he's hanging his head a little bit more than he should be. Well, let me just understand what that kid went through today, or like, you know what I mean? I don't know, man. I just, relationship management is huge to me. And I think the better coaches, are doing, or at least attempting it. And then their position coaches are emulating that behavior.
Right.
And saying like, hey, like, listen, if I'm a position coach, ain't no way the head coach is going to know anybody in my room better than me. So, hopefully they're but you emulate what you feel from the top a lot. So maybe some coaches may be doing it with their position groups and others may not be.
Yeah.
Keesal, I will say this now publicly, was awful at it. He was terrible. And he might be one of the worst coaches I've ever heard of. Like, you know what I mean? Like, in a lot of ways.
But we put it in proper perspective. The series of events that led to him landing that job.
Yikes, man. But even as just a position coach, man, he wasn't great. He didn't communicate.
Sure,
Guys didn't like him. He couldn't talk to nobody.
But again, the series of events which led to him getting that position, right? Yeah. Because he wasn't even the first. He was an analyst. Right? He was an analyst.
Yeah. Like, yikes, man. Yeah. I don't know. But that's why I'm saying that to say underscore why it's important to have the relationships, have the conversations, and then for the messaging to line up publicly with what you're saying privately to a lot of these players. And it appears that there may be some work that needs to happen in that area based on conversations we've had and what he said publicly.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna grab some super chats and get out of here. Monty Smoot says, I've always said we got the talent to win the national championship. True. But the development under the last 2 regimes to me was lacking.
Facts.
Also true.
That's all facts, man. Development. That's how you build a championship squad. You have a process, you employ your process, guys buy in, and then it produces. And the more it produces, the more guys buy in. Circle of life.
Otis Smith says Freeze head coach Harsin OC. I wouldn't be mad at all. Actually, I would.
Who's coaching them quarterbacks, man? That's all I want to know. Who's
it's
coaching
just,
quarterbacks?
Their approach to offense is so different, and we've
they
heard
don't
this from
jive
the
at
players.
all.
The players we've heard talked about how much different this offense is.
As long as Freeze is calling plays in this scenario, I might be okay with it.
Well, see, actually, so here, let's back up. I don't hate Coach Brian Harsin as a play caller. I think he actually is a good play caller. I just don't think his approach to system is at I don't know whose system we're running in that scenario.
Harsin, Bobo.
That's not a
culture
saw how
that
fit.
happened, right? Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Harsin and Bobo, we saw how that ended up. Yep. Bobo had to go, right? I just don't see how these two
no more Bobo
would mesh. I really don't see how they would mesh.
I don't. Yeah, because I'll take you back to the press conference and Coach Hugh Freeze. I think it actually was during A-Day when they were talking to him saying, he reserves the right to jump in and want to call a play every now and then. Say, hey, I don't think Coach Harsin's gonna be okay with that. Like he's gonna take that as a personal. I don't think that they could fit together on the staff.
I don't think so either. And listen, to your point, I like Harsin as a play caller when he was calling plays. I wasn't mad at it, but I just don't think the way he approaches and attacks defense is the same as Hugh Freeze. And that would cause problems, I think.
Yeah, I don't. And then we'd be awful in the red zone all year. Right.
Yeah. All right. Good conversation, gentlemen. Good show. I tell the people what they should be expecting this week and how can they get that content.
Got to be a member. Click the join button before you get out of here. If you're watching the video on replay, that join button's right there for you. So, whenever you're watching the content, go ahead, click the join button so you can come on board. We got a lot of film stuff that we're getting into. So make sure that you're on board with the War Report family. If you are a member and want someone else to get a membership, you can give them the first month free. YouTube randomly assigns this to somebody. We don't have any control over who gets those gifted memberships. But if you want to get some more people on board, you absolutely can by gifting a membership right now. If you didn't get a chance to win something today, no worries. You can head to thewarreport.com and you can purchase some merch. You can get your own He Gone t-shirt and you can walk around and tell people that you support the War Report in whatever way you choose. We appreciate those of you who continue to patronize the shop and get a little bit of that merch. We've got articles up on the site, all kinds of things to help you stay on board with stay up to date with what's happening with Auburn sports. The Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, is our podcast place. So make sure you are checking us out over there for the audio only versions of this stuff. We actually have some stuff now on what is it? Google Music that they have. YouTube Music, because they have the stuff coming up from they have that podcasting stuff over there. So there's a lot of ways that you can check out audio only content from the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. We appreciate those of you who continue to support in that way as well.
Guys, before you get out of here, share this video on social media. Smash that like button, guys. Please help us out with that. And subscribe if you're new to the channel. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find us at The War Report. On TikTok, we are at TW Report. Signing off. We didn't get a chance to discuss basketball moves, but that's what the morning drops are for. So check in with us this week. We'll definitely talk some of the recruiting news as well as transfer portal news there. Until then, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.